It'd be awful hard to do without him.
How you doing?
Yeah. Crime happens every day. We're here to tell you about it. If you're a serious true crime addict, The Daily Crime has you covered. The Daily Crime, an all-new podcast from Vault Studios. Crime addict, The Daily Crime has you covered. The Daily Crime, an all-new podcast from Vault Studios.
Mr. Zero, step out of the car, please.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911. Walking on thin ice, a woman watches in horror as a frozen stream threatens the life of her dog.
It was kind of a mortifying feeling that this dog was out there.
Until one man braves the sub-zero waters.
Right then, the dog had worn out.
Plus,
What else hurts anywhere? The back of your head hurts. Okay.
medical centers its attention on a critically injured little boy.
Good thing he's wearing a helmet is right.
On Rescue 911.
We begin in the dead of winter on December 29th, 1993, along the icy shores of the Clark Fork River in Missoula, Montana. As Bonnie Dalton was taking her young dog, El Camino, for a walk, some of the footage in this story was taped as the events unfolded.
El Camino's a pretty hyper dog. He likes to get out and run and jump and play catch. I took him out so he could do his thing, and he just was being himself, ignoring his master.
Right here, boy.
I kept calling for him like 3 times. He didn't listen to me. And then he went out to get a drink. It was very cold, like ice water in the freezer.
When we continue.
The dog couldn't go anywhere. It was just trying to stay alive. Every time it would go under, I thought that was the last time, and it was over.
Really good today.
Our new desert home?
Broadway? What do you want at the river? Okay, where is it? There's East Broadway. And it's my friend's dog. Is it under the ice or above? It's in the middle of the river.
Within 4 minutes of the call, Missoula police officer Jim Pomtrelli arrived at the scene.
The owner of the dog was almost hysterical.
I said, we gotta get my dog out of there. I can't just watch him die.
She kind of wanted to go in the water, and that was not an option. She wouldn't have lasted. It was that cold. But on the other side of the river, there was less of an ice jam near the bank. The ice probably extended out 10 feet instead of 150 feet. So I figured if we could try to coax the dog to the other shore, we'd have a good chance of just reaching out and picking it up. An ice jam held it out in the middle of the water, so the dog couldn't go anywhere. It was just trying to stay alive, and its mouth would keep appearing out of the water. Every time it would go under, I thought that was the last time and it was over. But it kept fighting.
Within 10 minutes, Animal Control Officer Benita Jacobson arrived.
The dog was in the center of the river and trying to swim out of the current. We were on the bank trying to get the dog to come into the current where it would possibly get swept past us and maybe somebody would be able to pull him out of the river. It was kind of a mortifying feeling that this dog was out there and you could do absolutely nothing to get it to shore.
There was no other option except to watch the dog die.
Missoula rural firefighter Tom Ziegler was off duty when he heard what had happened.
Hi, Julie, it's about Rural Park. Did you get that dog out of the river yet?
Yeah, we saw it. Yeah, I think he's floating on a piece of ice.
It is? Okay, well,
I have some specialized training and some equipment that allows us to enter cold water. So I left to respond down there and see if I could offer some assistance. I can't watch anybody die, whether it's an animal or a person, and this animal was dying.
The dog was just starting to get real worn out when Tom pulled up. And he got out of his truck and he had these fins in his hand, and I just said, what are you gonna do?
just want to slide down, or what's the program? You want to... It's right there. It's right out there. See it? Can you see it? All right. Go.
Right then, the dog had worn out and couldn't fight it anymore.
The dog was in the water approximately 30 minutes. The water was extremely cold, 27 degrees. It wasn't going to last much longer.
We didn't know what he was sitting there for, because right then the dog had started to flow down the current in front of him, and we realized he couldn't see where the dog was.
Tom appeared to be even tired just from the short swim. He was just kind of hanging onto the ice, and he draped the dog on the little extension of ice that was near the bank there.
When I got to the bank and laid the dog down, I really didn't think the dog was going to make it. I've never seen anything this hypothermic and come back.
It was barely moving, barely breathing. His eyes were almost fixed. It appeared like it was almost dead.
I've pulled dogs out of water when they're already dead, but I've never seen a dog pulled out of such freezing water. That dog was just frozen. And I really didn't know how much could that dog really take.
I didn't see his eyes move at all. His legs were stiff.
You're going to have to roll.
Breaths were far apart, real slow and labored. I didn't know if it was going to live to get to the vet, even.
El Camino was taken to the Alpine Veterinary Service and put under the care of Dr. Sarah Stevens.
El Camino wasn't even shivering when he came in, so he was very, very cold.
I want to take his temperature.
The normal dog temperature is 101 to 102 degrees. My thermometer starts at 94. The temperature didn't register. We put him in a warm water bath, and we heated fluids so we could give the dog a warm IV.
We can get you back to the table. We can get you out.
While we had El Camino in the bathtub, he began to warm up and he started to shiver, so that was a very good sign.
It's still below 94.
It did alarm me somewhat that his temperature didn't register on the thermometer for 4 hours. But as long as his vital signs improved for the entire 4 hours, I was happy, and I thought that he would recover.
Tom Ziegler was subsequently honored by the Humane Society for his heroism in saving El Camino's life that day.
Tom risked his own life, and I really owe him. El Camino would have died if Tom didn't show up.
I felt relieved that I was able to put my training to use. I felt good about that it worked. That's our job, we save lives. And whether it's an animal or a person, we need to be prepared to do whatever it takes. If you're going to be near a situation where an animal can be endangered, you need to keep the animal controlled and on a leash. Do not allow your dogs to walk out onto the ice. There's no reason for anybody to be on it unless it's a designated recreation area.
I love my dog. He's a good family dog. I'm glad El Camino's alive.
Next.
Initially, it didn't look that bad, but a few of the pieces of bone actually did go into the surrounding of the brain. It fractures here and up here, and it's pushed back.
These are unprecedented times.
I put a lot of house,
I was going to worry about
outwards 10,000 for
Who's to rest? Children visit the emergency departments of hospitals. Every year, more than 20 million children visit the emergency departments of hospitals, most of them injured in accidents that could have been prevented. This story is not a recreation. It's one family's ordeal that began on a February evening in 1994 in the isolated community of Waianae on the island of Oahu and ended at the Kapi'olani Medical Center for Women and Children, the only pediatric intensive care facility in the state of Hawaii.
A little boy was riding a three-wheeler and apparently got hurt. I really don't know. I'm not sure. I'm in the house.
A 911 call reports an ATV accident involving a child. During the 45-minute transport to Kapi'olani Medical Center, word on the boy's condition is radioed ahead to Dr. Rod Borchak, the pediatric emergency physician on duty that night. The victim is Keone Wolf.
When we first came in, we did a very quick assessment to make sure he was breathing.
All right, just keep your head still, keep your neck still, don't move. Deep breath in and out. Attaboy. Okay, airways, clear.
Initially, it didn't look that bad.
Got an ID running or not yet?
Yeah.
Jeff, can you put some pressure on this bleeding? Don't move your neck, okay? Malcolm, you saw the accident. Let's go over it one more time. What hit him in the face?
when I handled the crossbar going like this.
Okay.
So what happened when the flight went over, I think the crossbar just landed right on his face.
Smacked his face.
Smacked his face.
Okay.
He had a helmet on, but he didn't have no face shield on.
He was wearing a safety helmet.
Yeah, the helmet saved the fall because the crossbar on that handle whacked against the helmet, but that saved the whole thing from coming up.
That's okay. Open your eyes for me. Look at my nose again. Look way over here. Look way over the other side. Look at your uncle.
His eyes weren't tracking well. With trauma to the face like this, you can blow the orbits out. And if you blow the orbits out, then the eyes won't move properly.
It's hard to get a good real his full range of movement because his eyes are so swollen. What else hurts anywhere? The back of your head hurts. Okay. One pillow. I can't do one pillow until we x-ray your head first, sweetie, okay? I want you to keep your neck still for me, okay? After we get the x-ray of the neck, you can have 2 pillows if you want, okay? Attaboy. Uncle's helping us keep by holding the blood, okay? And Mom and Dad are on their way in.
Keone and his uncle seemed very close. The uncle was very concerned about him, and extended family is very important in Hawaii. So if there's any aunties or uncles around that make a good connection with the child, we really like to include them.
Are you scared? Yeah.
Both of us are spiritual.
After the initial x-ray, his lateral neck had been cleared of injury. That looks good. The next important thing was a CT scan, initially looking for any type of bleeding in his head.
We're going to do a few extra cuts right through his eyes to make sure he doesn't have any bone fracture of his orbit, because that bar looks like it came right across his upper orbital ridge. This looks a little different here. Very suspicious right here. Well, let's push down with this crack. It looks like he's got a fracture through either his sinuses or his orbit on the right side. He's got a little bit of air, looks like in the anterior part of his brain. The brain itself looks okay though.
Good thing he's wearing a helmet.
Good thing he's wearing a helmet is right.
Mom, on the phone, you want to talk to her?
I want to talk to Mom, yes. You drive very calmly if you're going to drive, and I would prefer that somebody drove you.
Close 50. Yeah. Oh. I'm really sorry.
When we talked and everything, I tried to blame myself, and she said, no, man, no. This is just an accident. This wasn't planned. Don't blame yourself. Just calm down, calm down. All my pressure just released.
Yeah, I told him not to leave him because I was wanting him all the way to X-ray, everything. I love you, Stephanie.
Keone's grandmother, Rosalind Raposa, and his grandfather arrived.
Everything okay, Hulu? Everything okay? Look like I love you. I love you. We felt for him, yeah.
What does remind you feel, okay?
I just couldn't do anything for him. He just took it like a man. Took it like a man, yeah. I was so proud of him, yet I knew more to come.
His mother, Stephanie Wolf, was at work when she heard about the accident.
You can hear all of us. You can open your eyes. No.
I was frightened, I was unsure, but he's not in a coma and he's not dead. If there were some physical things that may have happened, it didn't matter to me. My son's alive, I've got him.
It fractures here, here, and up here. And it's pushed back. See that? That's just like pushed way back. That should be a
Plastic surgeon Vincent Nip is called in to determine the extent of Keone's facial injuries.
The nasal bone separated from the skull and was pushed back into the face about an inch. There was a bony fragment that disrupted the covering of the brain, which caused the cerebrospinal fluid leak.
I'm sure it ripped your tear over there. Now, if you look at the anterior wall, a few spicules or little pieces of bone actually did go into and cut the surrounding of the brain. Okay, well, it looks like it needs to be done. If Keone didn't have the surgery, there is now a connection between the sinuses and the surrounding of the brain, which means that any infection that might be present in the sinuses could easily get up into the brain and around the brain.
3 days after the incident, Keone is ready for the delicate surgery to repair the fractured bones in his face.
Okay, buddy, I'll see you then, okay? Yeah. Don't be afraid, you're gonna be just fine.
Okay, anytime. We'll take a 10 blade. We made an incision in the scalp and pulled the scalp down to get to that area.
So we took a little bone from here as a bone graft, then we filled it in here where it was really smashed. He's really lucky, and I'm sure that helmet helped him.
I was very happy with the operation. I think we got the bones back to where they should be.
What's the matter? You're hungry?
That's a very good sign.
Very good sign. Kelly, Mommy's here. You can help my breathing. Okay, we got some oxygen in you.
And when I walked into the recovery room, the first thing I said, oh my gosh, it was a sight. I mean, I was really, really scared. I understood the surgery that he was going to go through, imagined what it was going to look like, but the reality was totally different.
Everybody told you how you're gonna breathe. That's what you need to do. Oh, you're a strong boy. Yes, that's how. I'm fine. There you go, Keone. Oh, your shorts.
Right there.
Okay, right there. Grandma got it right back here.
Every boy has something different. Some have a medal, some have girls have dolls. But Keone was very special with his shorts. And I told the doctor, in here, this is the only thing he had. And this will make him well because it will set him straight.
So you want mommy to put your shorts on?
1 month after surgery, Keone is almost fully recovered.
All the doctors there that in Kapi'olani, from Dr. Borchak to Dr. Nip and everyone that helped, they were really, really good. Everything's healing fine. His face and everything, his features are all coming back to the Keone that I knew. Open it up and we can put some in. As a parent, the most that we can do is try to make sure that we have here, proper supervision. Yeah, I think we've got enough in there now. You can never overdo when it comes to safety.
As part of the Safe Kids program, Dr. Boychuk and other hospital staff visit local schools to educate children about safety.
What's the first thing you do after you close the door and get in the car? Put on your seatbelts. Is that what we're going to hit every school in the state that will let us in. And if we can educate the kids of today, we won't have the trauma of tomorrow.
One of the main things that you can do to try to stay safe then is to wear a helmet.
Keone's outlook is great because he was wearing his helmet.
Some of the equipment that you use.
I suspect he's going to be able to do everything he did before, hopefully with one exception, and that's not drive that vehicle that he was on previously until he gets a little older.
I says, Keone, no more three-wheeler. He said, Grandma, no more three-wheeler. I'm going to be a fisherman. I'm not going to ride no three-wheeler. I'm going to be a fisherman.
I only ride on three-wheelers because I don't want to get hurt. I'm waiting for a come a bit older.
Keone's so adventurous. He loves everything outside, outdoors. I hope that this experience that he's gone through doesn't frighten him from taking the challenges, and that this doesn't stop him from being what he wants, whatever his dream is to fulfill.
The 11th ones called in after a chilling discovery, following a trail of clues to track down killer.
Our first priority was identify.
1997. Officers from the Newport News, Virginia. Police Department.
To order your Gotham Steel pans, call 1-800-908-3959 or go to gothamsteel.com. That's 1-800-908-3959 or order online at gothamsteel.com.
911, do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, no laughing matter. A clown walks the tightrope between life and death.
There was no movement, no breathing, no pulse. We may even be too late.
You do just everything you possibly can.
Plus, injured, stranded, and separated from their father.
You wish it just Superman sometimes. You could just fly out of there.
One teen twin fights to save the other.
There is no rescue helicopter. It hasn't been for 12 years.
On Rescue 911.
We begin on April 21st, 1993, at the Chorus Shrine Circus in Portland, Maine, as Oscar Cloutier and the rest of the clowns were performing before a packed audience.
The Shrine of Clowns are a fun group of grown men, believe it or not. We're not professionals, we're businessmen. Could be lawyers, doctors. We raise money, that goes to the Shrine Hospital. That's what supports it. Tim, our clown Doodles, became a close friend. Tim is a happy, jovial person. Everybody he came in contact with, he has that unique method of making them laugh. We did a skit. The skit was called Dr. Acupuncture. We had to run probably 100 yards off the set, and Tim, being a little bit on the heavy side, had a hard time with this. Tim weighs somewhere in the vicinity of 375 to 400 pounds. And as we got off the stage, he was panting.
Oscar's friend, Tim Gary, had been a Chorus Shrine clown for 18 years.
We had a very successful act that night. Kind of joking around, fooling around, and Tim said to me he didn't feel well. Take some rest, you know? Sometimes you can be joking around, so you're not sure whether he was joking or not. And then he was coughing and choking, and I felt so inadequate. Hey, let's get the table out. Fuzzy, one of our clowns that was there, said to me very clearly, you know, he has no pulse.
We need help here. Jack, get some help.
When we continue.
I looked around and saw all these long faces. It was heartbreaking to see them with their fake tears no longer fake.
Sorry, I gotta go back. Word. Things fell apart.
And his heart stopped beating. Someone alerted. Just moments after the Chorus Shrine clowns finished their first routine, 15-year-old Tim Gary collapsed backstage and his heart stopped beating. Someone alerted Pat McFarland, who was trained in CPR, and he ran to see what he could do.
Obviously, Timmy was in trouble. There was no breathing. His color wasn't good. His eyes were rolled up. When I first touched him and put my hands on his chest, I knew he was dead. There was nothing there. It was like touching a table.
As soon as he heard what had happened, Dale Glidden, another Shriner with CPR training, came over to help.
When I first observed him, there was no movement, no breathing, no pulse. So I was really quite concerned that we may even be too late.
5, 6.
Patricia Vidler, a registered nurse, also happened to be volunteering at the circus that day.
Tim was a very large man, and because of that factor, it was difficult. You had to really strain to pull his head back in order to have an adequate airway.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
His jaw was locked up, and
Never mind his mouth. Use his nose. Use his nose.
there wasn't anything except him. It was like, it's the last thing you can do for this guy. And it's really important that you do just everything you possibly can.
Breathe.
Keep breathing, Timmy. Keep breathing.
While he was being compressed, I just kept telling him, Timmy, this is Pat. Don't you give up on me. Don't you quit. And I think the very next thing that happened, I felt him come back to life.
You got a pulse? Keep breathing, Timmy. Keep breathing.
Come on, guy.
Come on.
He blinked his eyes a couple of times, And I remember somebody telling me I've established a pulse. And then someone again said, no, we've lost it.
Within minutes, a City of Portland Advanced Life Support Unit was on the scene, led by Paramedic Lieutenant Dan Brown.
When we arrived on the scene, we immediately evaluated and confirmed that indeed he was in cardiac arrest. This is a very serious condition. But good CPR was being performed by 2 bystanders.
Showing ventricular fibrillation. Ready, I'm gonna counter shock. Everybody clear, please? Any pulse for that?
No pulse.
Okay, continue.
I was watching the monitor at this point. The monitor didn't seem to react. Nothing seemed to change, which told me then there's nothing that we can do about this. And you want to chase it out of your mind, but you just can't do it. Tim is dead.
Let's do CPR, please.
Members of the Portland Fire Department arrived soon after.
They took over CPR, the ventilation, but at that time we still didn't have a pulse.
You feel pulse?
3. No, I don't have it yet. 5.
I felt really washed out. I stood back and looked around and saw all these long faces, these sad faces. It was heartbreaking to see them with their fake tears, no longer fake, but true tears coming down their faces.
To my surprise, after about a minute or two, one of the firemen said to me, Dan, I think we have a pulse.
It looked to me like on the monitor that they were getting a heartbeat. It was erratic, but it was there. And it was slow, but it was there.
Ventilations.
Let's go, pull it in. Safety.
Tim was taken to Mercy Hospital, where tests revealed that he had severe blockage in his coronary arteries. He underwent a triple bypass operation and was hospitalized for a month.
When I learned what had happened to me and what people had done to save my life, I was just awestruck. It was, I just couldn't believe it. It surprised me that all these people put forth such an effort to keep me alive. It's a new beginning. I think I'm a different person for it. I'm going out and I'm walking, I'm getting some exercise, I've taken off some weight. Somebody just saved my life. How do you say thank you to a person like that, or a group of people? You just can't, but just to look them in the eye and let them know that you really sincerely mean thank you.
6 weeks later, Tim was back entertaining sick and injured children at a local hospital.
I think it's a miracle that he's alive today. Tim is a wonderful man, and it's nice to know that he'll be out there making people laugh again, making them smile again, forget their troubles for a moment or two.
No, I'm just a regular guy. I just happened to be there at the time. I think it's tremendously important that people know CPR. It's the only chance that the average person has when they get down. It's very, very important. Because if something happens and you can't do anything, can you ever forgive yourself for not knowing?
So Eddie, how long have you been in here?
I've been here 5 days.
5 days. Apparently, God or the devil didn't want me to set me back to do something. I'm trying to find out what it is I'm supposed to do. Are you sure? But until I find out, I'm going to enjoy every day. Hopefully they'll allow me to stay in the clown unit until the day I die. You getting busy? Oh, okay.
Next.
I started going backwards and all I heard was yell and I looked out and there was some real quick.
Watch how Luminesce seems to blur away age spots to look years percent. Proprietary color mix. Risk-free. See for yourself, the products are made in the
The Luminesce Silk System, call 800. It become deadly. A stuntman helped us reconstruct the events that began on August 16, 1989, along an isolated stretch of the Canadian River. There's nothing like the feeling of freedom that comes from riding fast through rugged country on seldom traveled trails. But that remoteness can quickly become deadly. A stuntman helped us reconstruct the events that began on August 16, 1989, along an isolated stretch of the Canadian River.
For a vacation, Jerry Mayhew had taken his twin sons into the hills outside Amarillo, Texas, to ride the dirt bikes he had given them for Christmas.
My sons and I have been wanting to go up there and go riding on the river. There's all that kind of trails and there's good hills to climb.
We were on our way to Chicken Creek, and it was real rough country. It was hard to ride. Kevin, he was at the front, and the trail was too narrow for anybody to pass him up.
13-year-old Kevin Mayhew was leading the way. At the edge of a 30-foot cliff along the river, his bike ran out of gas, and he lost control.
He started going backwards, and all I heard was a yell, and I looked up, and I saw him go off the cliff. I was just stunned.
When I looked down, I was just hoping he was still alive. And I didn't know whether he was even breathing because the motorcycle was on top of him.
I thought he was dead, and then I started thinking, this can't be, you know. Then my dad got down there to him, he ran as hard as he could.
I was just scared to death.
Kevin?
So I turned him over, and at that time I noticed he was breathing. His arm was pulled around backward and his elbow broke. And I noticed on the side of his helmet, that side of it was cracked open. I just hoped that I didn't make any mistakes. If I turned him over, I didn't know if his neck was broke, what kind of injury he had.
Is he okay? Anything broken?
Kevin needed to get to a hospital immediately, but they were miles from the nearest phone.
He told me, you're gonna have to go for help. And I said, well, I don't know the way out of here. And I didn't know where to go.
Jerry was forced to go for help himself and leave 13-year-old Kenny to take care of his badly injured twin.
Hurry.
I had no idea how long it was going to take. I told him to stay there with Kevin and don't leave till I got back. Because I would be back.
His elbow was real blue. Some part of his bone stuck to the side of his skin, and he wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't answer anything I'd say. I was thinking, what if he stopped breathing? I didn't know what I could do.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I was just afraid that he was going to be dead when we got back.
I was scared every time he raised up. I was thinking, he's hurting himself. I was afraid he was going to roll over and fall in the river or something. So then I thought, well, I'm going to have to pack sand around him. It just kept going through my mind, when we get back.
It took Jerry more than 45 minutes to go 7 miles to the highway. Then the call went out, summoning help from all over the county.
Part-time Sheriff's Department, Osceola. Yep.
From 20 miles away, one of the first to answer the call for help was Tim Dockery, head of the local volunteer fire department.
I knew that there was a time factor involved from the information that the dispatcher had given me, and that a lot of time had already been lost.
The only way they was going to get him out was a helicopter.
He's about 7 miles up the river.
And they said, we have no helicopter. There is no rescue helicopter. It hasn't been for 12 years.
After 4 miles of increasingly rough roads, the rescue workers reached a point where it was just too rugged and narrow for cars to proceed.
My father had led us back to where we could not drive any farther with 4 dark vehicles. You could see the fear on his face. He knew that his son was hurt and hurt badly, and he needed, help back there as soon as we could. Every precious second counts.
Only one person could ride the 3 miles in with Jerry. The rest would have to walk. Because he was a trained EMT, Tim was chosen, but he could only bring in the medical supplies he could carry.
I felt really relieved. I felt, my dad's here. I didn't waste no time at all talking or nothing. He just started working on Kevin.
His abdomen was getting distended and very rigid, and I knew right then there I had internal injuries, and that's when I knew we had some serious trouble.
Got to get the rest of my gear in here.
If you've got internal injuries and possible back injuries, one wrong move by any one of us could have paralyzed him, or even fatally wounded him. We could not carry him out. Kenny had packed him in sand to keep him from rolling off in water. So the best thing I could do was just leave him there. The boy needed a trauma surgeon is what he needed.
To get Kevin out safely, they had to find a helicopter. But Tim's hand radio was not powerful enough to reach anyone.
Let me speak to someone in charge, please.
As rescue workers began to converge on the scene, county emergency coordinators tried to locate a helicopter to get the boy out. It had already been 2 hours.
Come on, get that girl there.
It's a sick feeling, it really is, to see the boy laying there and not being able to do more for him. This boy was going to die if we did not get him out. You wish that you're Superman sometimes, you could just fly him, out of there, but you can't do it. No, there's just no way.
Deputy Jerry Brinkley had to climb to the nearest high ground, where the reception was better, to be able to relay ongoing reports of the boy's vital signs to the hospital.
821, 820, copy. 821, go ahead.
It was a big shouting match.
Respiration, 28 shallow. Respiration, 28
For a long time, that's the only communications we had.
They located the helicopter, but it could not leave its own jurisdiction unless someone's life was in immediate danger.
Okay, is the boy in a life or death situation?
They didn't say they needed a merit for that.
Okay. Hello, no, I'm here. Need you to come up at this point to the Canadian River Bridge on the Dumas Highway where it'll start.
When the paramedics got to the scene, Kevin's condition seemed to be deteriorating. They put him on an IV. There was not much else anyone could do but wait for the helicopter to arrive from 90 miles away.
I felt like I'm just waiting for a minute, and then I waited a whole lot more, And then the paramedic kept on saying, we gotta get him out here. We finished his dad, and it just made me even more scared.
You think about everything, you don't really think about nothing. Just a congestion of memories going through your head all at one time.
I knew what Kenny had felt like, sitting back there waiting for someone to show up. And all you could do was just sit and wait and listen to the river go by, and that was it.
Kevin?
Kevin!
It seemed like it took 3 days before the chopper ever got there. Then you could hear the chopper coming up over the hill. It was a very good sight to see that chopper come over that hill.
There was a sigh of relief, but yet there was still a feeling of what was really wrong, if he was going to be all right. The 13-year-old boy has a lot of life left in him.
Four hours after the accident, Kevin was finally transported to the hospital. His kidney had been punctured, and he underwent surgery for a severely broken elbow. But trauma surgeon Dr. Charles Allison found no serious head or neck injury.
I feel that this patient's outcome was influenced very strongly by the protective equipment that he had in place at the time of the accident. He had a helmet on, shoulder and rib protection, and also some pads to the lower legs. If he hadn't had those on, I have no doubt but that there's been a good possibility of him being killed instantly with his fall.
2 months later, Kevin Mayhew's life has almost returned to normal. His kidney is healed, and his cats will be removed within a few weeks. His family remembers more about the accident than he does.
I could hear my dad, I could hear him talking to me, but I couldn't wake up, but I knew I was there. I could hear the helicopter running and feel him lift me off the ground in the helicopter. I hardly don't know anymore what happened then on. I would say that the reward goes to all of the paramedics who got there to him. They all did a terrific job. And the most credit goes to his Kenny, because he stayed there with Kevin. And that has to be the bravest thing that a boy can do, is stay with his brother like that for that long time. This experience has changed a lot the way I feel with my brother. I just want to give him as much support as I can. Sometimes during the accident, I worry about he die or something. I just kind of think he's going to be there, and I'm just used to him. I don't think I can do without him. I'm just glad they're together.
The first ones called in after a chilling discovery, following a trail of clues to track down killers.
My first priority was to identify the body.
New detectives coming up next. First responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next.
This is 911. Do you have emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a cornered cop.
Stop the knife, Chris.
K9 backup is called in.
We just tell this was not going to be a good situation.
And man's best friend risks it all. Plus, a mechanic is crushed under a truck.
To find a bolt, and I couldn't find any grip.
I knew then that technically he was dead.
Now, the jaws of life are his only hope.
Doesn't look real good here.
On Rescue 911.
We begin just after midnight on March 8, 1993, in Modesto, California.
A woman had phoned stating that she was having a peace disturbance with her son, and that he was possibly high on drugs, and that he was acting violent.
Modesto police officer Rick Pop was the first on the scene.
What do you want? I discovered that he was in an agitated state, was screaming at me to leave, At that time, I saw an elderly woman waving her arms, saying, come in, in a very nervous, frightened voice.
Can I talk to you out here?
He said, I'm not talking to you anymore. Attempted to close the door, and at that time, I took it upon myself to confront him. At first, I couldn't tell what he had in his hand. Then I realized that he had a knife.
Drop the knife, Rich. Drop the knife, Rich.
He said, get out of my house, get out of my house.
Drop it.
And then he bolted and ran.
Backup Officer Jim Sanders joined the pursuit.
I could see Officer Pop chasing the suspect down the roadway at a mobile home park. I radioed dispatch and we needed additional officers, then began to chase the suspect in the patrol unit.
He held the knife out in front of him, threatening me, and then he bolted back where he'd run from. As we were chasing him, I was becoming more concerned with the safety of anybody that he'd run across.
I got out of the patrol unit with my weapon drawn, yelling for him to stop, and also dropped the knife. At that point, I felt if he did not comply with our orders that I was going to have to use deadly force against this person.
When we continue,
I was thinking, all right, he's throwing the knife down, let's bring it, send Duke. As Duke was running toward him, he turned and he still had the knife.
That's a car. That's $1,000. Ever. Access. Found. Here's one we really need to reunite with her family. Morgan Fowler was 19 years old when she was last seen on February 12, 2016 in Atlanta, Georgia. Her photo has been age progressed to 23 years. If you have any information that could bring Morgan home, please call 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678. Please help bring Morgan home.
When Modesto police officers arrived at the scene of a domestic disturbance, the suspect threatened them with a knife before fleeing on foot. Additional backup units en route included K-9 officer Gene Valentine and his partner of 4.5 years, Duke.
All I knew was that guy was running, there was a knife involved, and I could hear a chase going on. I could just tell this was not going to be a good situation that we were running into. I was just very nervous. And whenever I get anxious and my adrenaline starts flowing, Duke feels that way also. We're together 24 hours a day, and because of that, you get this very close bond. He's my best friend, my partner, my confidant. I mean, I'll tell Duke things that I would never tell anyone else. I heard over the radio that the suspect with a knife had come back into his mobile home and that we might have a hostage situation.
Knife in his hand, he's still inside the
He was out of control. I was thinking, should I send him? Should I do it now? And I just knew the guy's got this knife. Let's hold off. Let's just wait. I didn't think he had the knife anymore. So I was thinking, all right, he's throwing the knife down. Let's end it, send Duke. As Duke was running toward him, he turned and he still had the knife. It was like my heart dropped. I thought, oh God. I called Duke off. And he stopped and turned around and laid down, which is what he was trained to do. I thought, we don't have a choice now because we guys only has a block. It was a split-second decision on do you use deadly force, do you shoot him, or do you send the dog?
charged him and then physically restrained him, knocking the knife from his grip.
I could hear Duke kind of whimpering. He had gotten to the bottom of the stairs and he was just kind of laying on the sidewalk.
Duke! Buddy, you okay?
I went to grab Duke, and then my hands slid around the left side, and I came up with just a handful of blood.
It'll be okay.
And he kind of licked me in the face. It was like, God, bye. I was thinking, man, I don't think we're gonna make it.
K-9 officer Ron Flower had also responded to the call.
It was heart-wrenching knowing that the dog had been stabbed, not knowing how serious it was. It could have been my dog, it could have been me in that situation. We know that our dogs are there to take the ultimate sacrifice so that an officer doesn't have to, but when it happens, it hurts deep down inside.
Someone help out here, please!
We got the first aid kit out of the trunk of his car and started wrapping bandages around the area of where the wounds were at. At that point, I was just thinking this was probably the end.
He was just laying there with his eyes open. Damn, it was so sad. I picked him up. I said, no, we're not waiting for anybody. Let's go now.
Duke was rushed to Modesto Veterinary Emergency Clinic in critical condition.
I was just, do something fast. They were trying to figure out how many times he'd been stabbed, where he'd been stabbed. We just knew that he was bleeding a lot and he wasn't making any moves at all.
Well, it was a pretty decent wound.
2 deep stab wounds had punctured Duke's chest, cutting through lung tissue and major blood vessels.
It was like he didn't even see me there. And that was the first time I've ever experienced him not even realizing I was there.
See how bad he's bleeding. It may not have changed yet, but let's take a look at it.
Although Duke was stabilized, after 2 days, his condition had deteriorated so much he was transferred to UC Davis Veterinary Medical Teaching Hospital and put under the care of Dr. Janet Aldrich.
He developed difficulty with breathing and he was becoming very anemic. In my opinion, he was very likely to die within the next 12 hours.
Well, I was watching because he was...
Although Duke was on medication and in an oxygen cage, his condition was not improving.
He was alert and not resting until Jean was in the room. I could see by monitoring devices that when Jean was with him, the dog was more relaxed, his blood pressure dropped, and that he went to sleep.
Better, Jean. That's amazing.
So we invited Jean to be hospitalized with him.
For the next 7 days, Jean never left Duke and even slept in his cage with him.
We've relied on each other through our whole career. He relies on me for his safety. I rely on him for my safety. And here you just done this for me, and it was real important for me to try and do something to help him.
This says to Duke, get well soon. You're a hero. We love you.
The community support was amazing.
It says, I hope.
Every day, another box would come, and it would be just full of medals for Duke. There were get well cards from people that had drawn pictures and said, get well Duke, we love you, come back home. And I read every single one to him. It kept me going, and I think I kept Duke going too.
2 weeks after the stabbing, Jean got his 30th birthday wish. Duke was finally well enough to go home.
All of the nurses and doctors from the hospital were there, and we just had a huge party. They gave Duke a little diploma for being an outstanding patient in ICU. It was neat. It was a real neat thing.
Again, that's Corporal Valentine and the Modesto Police Department and that dog Duke. Duke is retired now, I hear, and enjoying a life of leisure at home, but his boss still has to work.
Duke's become kind of a local hero. He hates retired life. Lays around the house now and does nothing but just get fat and think about poodles, but right now he's doing excellent.
The suspect who stabbed Duke was subsequently found guilty of multiple felony charges and sentenced to 11 years in jail.
Just to see a happy Duke again and to see everybody giving him all this attention and all the support, I'm like a proud papa. That's my boy, he done fine. He did a good job. He saved a life that night, and I think he deserves all the attention that he can get.
Corporal Valentine, thank you very much. Thank you too. We want that to go in his trophy case. We heard he's got a bunch of trophies.
Next,
The emergency brake was on, it was in park, and nobody thought to block it or anything.
Do you know what kinds of harmful things are even great?
The business and filled the room with
Integrated service, not even provide. Everything for a full
We're hosting a family gathering at their home in Just 3 days after Christmas in 1992, John Bricky and his wife Karen to celebrate the holiday a little late. John had surprised father, John Sr., with a very special gift.
All right, guys, let's go about what he had given me was a hat. And there were keys in the hat. And out in his garage that was shut was a pickup. And it was mine.
Bring it on up.
The transmission leaked in it. And it was leaking real bad.
Got pretty close now? Bring it on up, okay?
John was planning to fix the truck before his father drove it home.
That looks pretty good.
Johnny's mechanic. He'd been a mechanic for about 8 years.
Yeah, it's high enough now. Let's see if I should be able to get some linkage here.
The emergency brake was on, it was in park, and nobody thought to block it or anything.
There's the linkage here. I'll get straight around here and we'll see what else we need to get this thing fixed and all ready to go. Pry this loose, maybe we can put this thing on. Get this linkage off of there and get it going here.
Well, yeah, I should be able to get that. I got just that back from the pickup. And it does seem like I heard a click. I could see that it was smashing. Johnny, I couldn't find a pulse, and I couldn't find any breath. I just lost it.
John's wife Carrie was inside with his mother and younger sister.
And he's like, John's stuck. And I was like, he's stuck? Well, okay. And I was thinking his foot was stuck. What's going on? And I just saw his feet were hanging out from under the truck. It was not a natural position for any human being. I was sure he had broken his back. I was like, oh my God, he's never going to walk again if he lives through this.
Lakewood Fire Dispatcher Patty Hansness took the call.
She sounded real calm. I didn't think it was a great big emergency because she was so calm.
Okay, my partner's going to start help now. I'm going to stay on the line until we find out if he's conscious and breathing. Okay. No, he's not conscious. Okay, I need to know if he's breathing.
I had to be strong enough to get the things done that had to be done to make sure we were giving John every possible chance he had.
I felt guilty as hell. Harry went and bought this pickup for me. My pickup. And I thought, why did this happen?
He's not breathing. He's not breathing. Okay, listen to me. Listen to me.
When they said he didn't have a pulse and he wasn't breathing, I knew then that he was dead. I mean, that's my big brother out there. No heartbeat, not breathing.
Pierce County volunteer firefighter Captain John Christian was paged from his home just up the street.
Put my finger fed on his neck, and there was nothing. I kept feeling around. I thought, well, maybe I missed it.
and there's nothing there. Then I got a little nervous, because there he was. There he was. You can't, there's nothing I can do. I don't care how much adrenaline you got, it's hard to move a 4,000 or 5,000 pound truck by hand.
It was everything flashed in front of me that no, this isn't happening. Johnny shouldn't be underneath this pickup because he knows he should have had it blocked and he didn't have it blocked.
Within 3 minutes of the call, rescue units arrived with the jaws of life. When rescuers finally freed John, he'd been pinned under the pickup for more than 6 minutes.
I remember looking at his face and it was just completely purple, and looking at him knowing this is not my husband and he's dead, and like, gosh, we haven't had kids, and so I can't tell a kid about how neat he was. No one's going to know that.
Battalion Chief Larry Spawn was among those treated.
They're checking. I don't got any check pulse. Basically, this person is dead. They're not breathing and their heart's not beating, so they're clinically dead. I'm thinking that I have to turn around and tell the family that, it doesn't look real good here. That's scary to me.
At one point I thought, if he's going to be in severe pain forever, if he wakes up, don't make him wake up. Knowing that he would love life.
I don't got any check pulse. No pulse.
I knew, just looking at this person that was dead, that he should stay that way rather than have people take care of him for the rest of his life, because he would be miserable, even though he'd try to fake it maybe. But I knew that he and I would both know that he was miserable, because he would share that with me.
Hey, I feel hard. I've got a pulse. We got something.
It seemed like they just started CPR to me when he said, I got a pulse. And like he didn't believe it himself.
24-year-old John Brickey was admitted to Madigan Army Medical Center in a deep coma.
Stable right now.
I started going through things like, yes, he didn't remember us, because I knew that he had not had blood circulating through his body, so I don't know if he was going to have brain damage. Okay. All right, thanks. Well, you're looking better than earlier. I was just talking to him because I heard somewhere where if you talk to people and encourage them, it helps them get better faster. You'll keep it okay. Taking care of you. Hang in there, John. And I noticed the monitor, every time I would talk to him, his heart rate would go up. Let it go now. I'm wearing the wedding ring. I just started crying. I was like, gosh, he knows who I am when I'm talking to him, even though he can't talk to me.
Within 3 days, John came out of the coma, to the amazement of his doctor, Lawrence Levine.
He woke up almost like throwing a switch. There did not appear to be any obvious spinal cord damage, any obvious brain damage. It's as if he went to sleep for a prolonged period of time and woke up and says, hello, I'm here, I'm back.
More than a year has passed since the incident.
I remember, there's no brain damage at all. It's really, really amazing. The only thing that he doesn't remember that day, but that's a day I just forget too.
I didn't chalk the wheels, which, being a mechanic and I should have known better. I learned that the little things can really cost you if you're not cautious.
Who's that, Slush? Yeah, you guys do it. Let's stop the meeting for a minute. We had the association meeting. John was here, and he thanked the volunteers for doing what they had done. Choked a few of us up. How you doing? Good. Larry, good. We get cards and letters from family members all the time, but this was different. This was the actual patient who wanted to express his gratification for what we had done.
John subsequently joined the Pierce County Volunteer Rescue Squad.
He wants to do things for other people, and he isn't so self-centered that he's got to have everything for him. He's just one of my special kids that's really special. It'd be awful hard to do without him. How you doing?
Yeah. Crime happens every day. We're here to tell you about it. If you're a serious true crime addict, the Daily Crime has you covered. The Daily Crime, an all-new podcast from Vaults.
On thin ice, a woman watches in horror as a frozen stream threatens the life of her dog.
It was kind of a mortifying feeling that this dog was out there.
Until one man braves the sub-zero waters.
Right then the dog had worn out.
Plus,
what else hurts anywhere? The back of your head hurts, okay.
Medical centers his attention on a critically injured little boy.
Good thing he's wearing a helmet is right.
On Rescue 911. To mission.com right now to get your own Mission cooling hat for a limited time. When you enter the promo code below, you can save 25% on the entire line of Mission innovations and get free shipping. Today on Rescue 911, overcome by smoke.
The license fire.
A blazing building.
Somebody was trapped.
A brave man.
Most of the floors involved in fire.
And a frantic EMT.
So that's my mom's house.
Plus, friends act fast.
You lived in the wrong way can make things worse.
When a boy is paralyzed in a diving accident.
It just from my body. Said he was not hurting, but he couldn't feel anything.
On Rescue 911.
When Ivy King moved from South America to Brooklyn, New York, she worked hard to realize her dream of buying a house big enough for her large family to live in together. 15 years later, on the evening of June 11th, 1994, she was still living in her dream house with a grown son, 4 grown daughters, and their families, including 28-year-old Carmel.
This has been my home for years. You get attached. It's a part of you. That's like your comfort zone.
This will be enough for now. How many potatoes you want in there?
That's me.
Ivy was in the kitchen on the first floor.
I saw the smoke start gushing from the bedroom. And I just shouted and I said, fire, fire, fire.
The smoke was black. The black smoke just gushing out of the room, so I knew it was serious.
Diane, she was the favorite in the family. She was born mentally retarded. She would take care of the kids loved her.
I picked up the phone and I dialed 911.
Police operator 2338, where's your emergency? No, I don't have a fire downstairs. Fire? Yes, come on, come on, fire downstairs. Okay.
Diane was standing in front of my bedroom door, and I said to her, go outside. Between the time we realized the fire started and by the time we got out of the house, the whole house was just on fire.
When we continue,
We realized that Diane was missing. I thought, oh my God, she's gonna die, because at that point, the fire had consumed the whole house.
why are so many people turning to delicious apple? You could take your chances with options.
Us are designed to support.
But then we started looking around.
16-year-old Noella is one of the oldest of Ivy's grandchildren.
I thought everybody was outside. But then we started looking around. That's when we realized that Diane was missing.
She wasn't outside, so she had to be in the house. And I thought, oh my God, she's gonna die, because at that point, the fire had consumed the whole house. I felt guilty. I felt that I should have made sure that she came out of the house.
Within 4 minutes of the call, the first New York City fire units arrived, including 11-year veteran Richard Palmer.
A woman let us know that somebody was in back, trapped in the parlor floor. I didn't have many options as to how to get to the building. I had to go through another building to get there.
St. Mary's Hospital ambulance paramedic Denise King was also dispatched to the scene.
We got a call for a burn. They didn't give us the location. They just said Eastern Parkway, New York Avenue. I told my partner, I said, oh, that's where my family lived.
There was a side door. I had to force it with a Halligan tool. There was zero visibility, pretty hot. Most of the parlor floor is involved in fire.
It was just so much smoke and fire through the whole house. I didn't think it was possible for her to survive all that.
99% of the times you crawl around a fire, you see nothing. You go 100% by touch. The most important part is to keep a mental track of where you are in the room in regard to getting out. When I entered the kitchen area, the fire was very close. Actually, it was probably starting in the kitchen itself. I started going towards the rear towards where the window I had broken, and probably 10 or 12 feet back, I found Miss King.
The job came up on the computer.
Yeah, it came up. It's 295 New York Avenue.
Oh, well, that's my family house. And I said, that's my mom's house. I got very nervous at that point.
I couldn't go back, bring her out the way I had come in. There was a fence involved and too many stairs.
1320828.
I couldn't really determine if she was breathing. I checked for a pulse. She had a pulse. The fire had pretty much been knocked down by the engine.
Okay, bring her right up to the front.
We took her up and back out through the fire building.
Got it, Dennis, got him.
It didn't even appear as though she was breathing, so I just knew she was dead.
New York City police officer Marty Polino was also on the scene.
The mother was hysterical crying. We were like trying to hold everybody back, trying to make room for EMS to respond.
Denise's partner, paramedic MD David Colborn, had worked with her for 4 years.
Denise is very cool, very collected. She's a very good paramedic. Very much so in control of herself, usually.
I saw my sister on the sidewalk.
I said, you know, Denise, we need you now. You know, your sister needs you.
I remember saying, okay, and I wasn't nervous anymore. I was just handling the call like, you know, I would normally handle a call. It was still my sister, but this is my job. I'm going to do my job and do the best I can. Denise, I don't think I could have done it. She was very brave. Her respirations were suppressed. She was covered in sun. Her hair was burned.
As we get her to the ambulance, her respiratory rate ceased. Was she breathing at all when you got there?
She was very combative. We restrained her and we attended intubation, but she pulled the tube out and we just continued to bag. It was very hard being calm, very hard. I was praying the whole time.
Diane was taken to the trauma center at Kings County Hospital, where emergency physician Richard Sinner took over her care.
When she arrived, she was quite disoriented, but her vital signs were stable, and she was breathing at a normal rate.
Can I speak to the director of the hyperbaric chamber approximately?
We did tests, and it showed that she had a significant carbon monoxide poisoning. We needed to effect a treatment rather quickly.
Diane was transferred to Bronx Municipal Hospital, where she was put in a hyperbaric chamber to lower the dangerous levels of carbon monoxide in her blood.
Okay, 60 feet, you're on bottom.
She was hospitalized for 7 weeks. 5 months later, 30-year-old Diane King is doing well. The family lost everything they owned, but not their strength to continue.
I think they have a hard road ahead of them, but I think that because of the natural dynamics that they have and the love that they have for each other, they'll be able to do very well in the future, even though this minor setback is taking place for them.
Denise did an excellent job. She composed herself and did what she had to do. And given the circumstances, she did very well. I am proud.
The hero to me in the story is firefighter Palmer, because he ran into the burning building and saved my sister's life. He's the hero. I can't thank him enough. And they said they were going to give him a citation. I think he deserved it. He deserved it. He risked his life to save my daughter.
It was subsequently determined that the fire was caused by a short in the electrical wiring.
The house and the stuff in the house is material. We could always replace that. So the best part was that Dad turned out okay and everybody was alive.
Next,
I thought, well, he's just playing or seeing how long he can hold his breath maybe. But then his body went down to the bottom of the sand.
These are unprecedented times, which
They be able to stay
to do.
A bank account?
everything. The IRS.
It's like I'll give it a chance.
500.
Take it off.
They're standing by, ready?
The son's friend. On March 4th, the vacation home at Lake Jewel in Florida that Nancy Aspinwall and her husband owned was a popular place for their son's friends. On March 4th, 1990, a group of them gathered hoping to go swimming or water skiing, with no idea what the day would bring.
All of us were out on the dock, but Benji was the last one. He had been messing around with his car.
18-year-old Benji Keel was staying with his friend Jason Aspinwall at the house.
During breakfast, everybody was talking about going skiing, and since it was early in the year, we knew the water would be cold. So we were going to sit down and wait for it to warm up some.
Well, we're gonna go eventually.
Gene Harkey was staying nearby at his uncle's house that weekend.
We're just about to set up the boat with the boom and everything. At that point, Benji said that he wanted to see how cold the water was, and he took a leap off the dock.
The water looks too cold to be jumping in there. Really, easing that water and jumping like that.
Why did he just lay there like that? I thought, well, he's just playing or seeing how long he can hold his breath maybe.
Trying to get one of us to jump in there.
He's just relaxed.
But then his body went down to the bottom of the sand.
But y'all look at him.
I said, something's wrong with him.
Oh, he looks like he's hurt.
Jamie,
Y'all
get
think
it.
he's hurt.
So I thought perhaps he just had a cramp because the water was cold. My thing was just getting out of the water,
I told him not to take him out of the water because if you moved him the wrong way, it could make things worse.
911, what is your emergency?
At 11:25 a.m., a call for help came in to the Putnam County Sheriff's Department. The nearest medic unit with the Palatka Fire Department was immediately dispatched to what was described as a diving accident, but they were 18 miles away.
First thing that came to my mind was to put him on something flat and not move him much. And the first thing I saw that was large enough to go underneath the person was the surfboard. Because the surfboard also floats, it was an excellent thing by chance. We were like getting him to say stupid things like, what's your favorite song, you know, and told him to say his ABCs, and he didn't want to do that either, but that was okay. It really wasn't the point. The point was to keep him conscious and aware of what was going on.
The Aspinwalls had a safety collar around the house for water skiing competitions. They carefully put it on to try to immobilize Benji's neck.
At one point, his arm fell off the surfboard, and he didn't have any idea that it was off, and we picked his arm and put it back up on the surfboard, and that was the point that I realized that we really had a serious situation.
Off-duty paramedic Jim Passwater had heard the dispatch on his pager.
He said he was not hurting, but he couldn't feel anything. Right away, I realized that he had some type of a cervical injury or spinal injury.
Just exactly what needs to be done. Don't move him, just leave him. Get some extra help. All right, you got the telephone here?
And I just felt the boy really needed some attention from a trauma center. I felt that he needed more care than we could give him here in Putnam County.
The Trauma 1 helicopter from University Medical Center was dispatched to the scene.
Don't worry.
Volunteer firefighters arrived and immediately began packaging Benji for the 50-mile flight to the hospital.
Yeah, all right, back forward up. All right.
Benji's parents, Anna and Daniel Keel, arrived soon after.
They mentioned that he had his head on the bottom. He was looking up at me and said, "I'm sorry, Dad."
2, 3. Slow and easy.
I knew he was paralyzed, but I didn't know to what extent. With my wife being upset like she was, I was trying to hold it.
They brought him up on the stretcher, and I went over to him and I knelt down on the ground, and he looked up and he said, "I'll be all right, Mom, I'll be all right." He always tried to console everybody else. It was like we were the patients, he wasn't.
Once we got him up on land, he was almost in tears telling his mother that he did not want to live like this, referring to being paralyzed from the neck down. You hurting anywhere, Benji?
It's a burning sensation in my shoulder.
And your shoulder's where? He started having a little sensation, which I felt was a good sign, but we knew he had a neurological deficit. Down into approximately 4 foot of water.
Paramedic Mike Kern and his partner arrived on the scene.
Okay, we got a helicopter.
I remember being 18 myself and all the things that I wanted to do in my life. And here's an 18-year-old faced with the possibility that he's going to spend the rest of his life in a bed as a quadriplegic.
We'll be there as soon as we can, son.
It was scary to see my son go in a helicopter. Because I wasn't for sure. I just wasn't for sure what was going to take place at the other end. And what we was going to find when we got to the hospital.
Benji was admitted to the trauma unit under the care of Dr. Keith Sinclair.
He checked his legs. His neurological exam showed that he was paralyzed from the neck down.
But though Benji's neck was broken, a CAT scan revealed he had not severed his spinal cord. The paralysis was caused by severe bruising.
Physical exam suggests you've got some injury to your spinal cord at the moment. Spinal cord injuries, especially when people are rendered quadriplegic, have quite a high risk of death. Pneumonia is a very big problem, as is spinal cord shock.
By the third day following the accident, Benji was suffering from both pneumonia and spinal shock.
And when we walked in then, it hit us hard, because we didn't know if he was going to make it.
Shortly after we had intubated him because of the difficulty in breathing through his bad pneumonia, his blood pressure dropped precipitously and his heart stopped transiently. Fortunately, there were a lot of people in attendance at the time, and so we managed to resuscitate him very quickly.
Within 2 weeks, Benji had managed to recover enough to be taken off the respirator.
He had the attitude that he was not going to lay in that bed no more than he had to. Well, I knew then if he got into a rehab center, he would be all right.
With extensive rehabilitation, 9 months after the accident, Benji learned to walk without the aid of a cane.
People ask me if I'm going to become completely healed, and I'm a little doubtful. I have some problems with my left arm. But I told them, if the only thing I get back is what I've got right now, I'm happy. Because I know what it's like to be without anything. He was very lucky in the fact that the boys that were with him, if they hadn't done what they have done, by all means, placing that surfboard underneath him and floating him to shore, keeping his neck and spine in line, they're the reasons Benji's walking today.
Ready?
The rescuers and my friends who saved my life, I try to think at night, how can I repay these people for what they've done for me? And there's no way to repay them except for say thank you. If they ever need anything from me, I'm there. There's no doubt in my mind. I would sacrifice anything for them.
The dog in my pants,
When I was just see the signs, it says feet first time. If I went feet first, I would have realized how Trust me, you don't want to dive into shallow water. Being paralyzed is scary. It's the hardest thing I've ever had to go through in my life. Hopefully it will be the hardest.
It changes your aspect on life. You want to care a little more. If you know somebody needs help, go help. Be a friend if you can. You give them something back. When you almost have something taken away and then you can give something back. And be thankful. And I'm thankful. I'm thankful I got Benji. Because he's my buddy.
Every night when I go to sleep, I thank God for what He's given me. It won't be the same. It'll never be the same. And I'll never expect it to be the same. But I'm happy with life now.
By land and by sea, tag along with America's toughest beach patrols as they save lives and keep the peace.
I can smell vodka.
Ocean Force, next on True Crime Network.
Home broadband is
Easy cash by setting up a phony arson of his home backfired when his insurance company became suspicious. He needed to prove to them that criminal forces were out to get him. Ren became a patsy in his twisted plan. Sergeant Nat Bachmeyer was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole.
First responders jump into action. Rescue 911 next.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, suspense on the water. When a speedboat loses control,
There just didn't seem to be anything that any of the boats could do.
a hot dog rescue could become a disaster.
A young kid like that will do almost anything, so you're scared to death for him.
Plus, when rescuers arrive,
Oh my God, that's my sister Mary.
life and death hits too close to home.
Just crazy intensity.
On Rescue 911.
When in the spring of 1994, Scott Baker married Shelley Burrell, he was thrilled to gain a son as well, her 3-year-old boy, Michael. But on May 28th at Grand Lake in Grove, Oklahoma, Scott discovered how quickly the things we hold dear can be taken away.
Michael was just sitting in between my legs because he wanted to be by the wheel. He had never been out on a boat before. I had the boat full throttle, and that's what he liked. He liked the speed. You know, he's faster, Daddy, faster. He was having a ball.
Michael's mother, Shelley, and Scott's sister were also in the boat.
We got almost to the end of the lake, and we turned around and started coming back. It was Memorial Day weekend, so there was a lot of boats out there.
We was coming up on the bridge. I was looking back, just making sure there was no boats coming up. I never did see the boat that caused the wake.
I was just yelling, Michael, Michael. I looked around, I couldn't see him. I didn't know where he was.
When we continue.
Matt has a reputation for being a wild man on the lake. We didn't know what that kid was going to do.
Do you have trouble hearing conversations? Are you constantly asking loved ones to repeat themselves? Do you miss out on discussions or talking with friends? Then you would benefit from Nano hearing aids. Don't waste thousands of dollars on expensive hearing aids or settle with the frustration. Portable
You free. And tell a trusted adult what happened right away. Make sure that your children know that it's okay to say no to a strange adult and to yell to keep themselves safe, even if they're indoors. Be aware and be safe.
Jim Spencer and his wife were coming in from fishing when they saw the accident.
The boat was going in a pretty good full circle at full throttle, and I was concerned about the boat coming back and running over somebody.
At that time, I heard a little scream, and I looked up at the boat. Michael was still in it.
It was going fast. And I just thought for sure Michael was going to stand up, get thrown out.
Bill Homewood also came over to help pull the family out of the water.
Consequences of the motor coming across somebody in the water is devastating. It's just like sticking your hand in a meat grinder.
We picked Scott up, and I asked him how much gas his boat had in it, and he said it just filled it up. I thought, my gosh, that thing will run for 3.5 hours.
I was close enough to where I could holler at him, tell him just to stay down. I was very worried because it was full throttle. And if it were straightened out and hit something, Michael, as small as he was going to be seriously injured, if not killed.
The only idea I had at the time was for Scott to get back in the boat. We had enough power with our boat to get alongside it. But because every time it would hit its own wake, it would skitter out again and make a tired turn. It was difficult to estimate when to go in and try it. Scott missed. And that was really scary for me because the boat prop couldn't have missed him more than a foot. I told him, don't try that again, but we'll figure out some other way to do this.
From her lakeside home, Pat Seawright spotted the rescue efforts.
There just didn't seem to be anything that any of the boats could do. That boat was just, it was just wild. I couldn't see how anything could save this child.
Every now and then you hear him scream, Daddy, or Mama. He's my stepson, but I love him like he's mine.
17-year-old Matt Reeves was working at the family business in the nearby marina. Matt's father, Roy, was also working that day.
Matt enjoys helping people. So, knowing Matt like I do, I yelled to him, be sure you've got a life jacket on.
Here comes this kid on a wave runner. We didn't know what that kid was going to do.
I seen Matt show up. And he came up and he asked me, would you mind if I tried to get into the boat? I said, if you can get in, well, I owe you, I owe you dearly.
Matt has a reputation for being a wild man on the lake. He rides that wave runner all the time. A young kid like that will do almost anything, so you're scared to death for him.
After I saw Matt go in and then back off, I got to thinking, that's my boy out there. If a runaway boat hits him or knocks him off the wave runner, he's going to get shot by the prop.
He served him a couple times. And then he turned around, like he told himself, one shot's all I got, we're going to go for it.
After I shut the boat down, everybody in the boats were cheering, and horns were blowing and blasting. And Michael, when he was shaking, I kind of realized what I did. And my nerves were kind of shaking. I couldn't hardly pick him up.
Everybody's mood changed so fast. I think they kind of wanted to just step out of my boat and walk on water over there.
I took Michael into my arms, and I was holding him up tight. I couldn't stop crying. I remember him telling me a couple times, "It's okay, Daddy, I love you, Daddy." It made me realize how much I really did care for him.
It was all over, and I just can't explain how tremendously relieved we were. It could have been so bad. About that time, the lake patrol, I turned around to look for Matt, and he was off into the sunset.
A month has passed since 3-year-old Michael's boating accident.
You know what the boat did to my mom and dad? It threw them out in the water. It went around and around the circle again, and I was scared to stand up. But Matt Reed got me out of that boat. He's the hero. Matt Reed is like Batman.
Made myself a hero. I guess I had to do what I had to do, or what anybody could do. I love the water. If I'm not around water, I'm not comfortable.
Lake Patrol Officer Jim Alt investigated the incident.
I was very surprised that in an accident of this type, there was no injury. The rider of a jet ski or a wave runner should not even consider doing anything similar to this. This is an extremely dangerous thing to attempt.
Like I said, just Memorial Day weekend.
When I met him, he seemed so young. He seemed like a little kid. And then I was thinking what he did. He put himself in danger, and he didn't even think about it.
I think Matt did something that will be remembered for a long time.
Next.
She was well beyond the golden hour, so we knew we were fighting time and fighting shock, and this time I really didn't know whether we could save her or not.
The book done.
Today, for management of my...
After 28 years of marriage, Floyd Engel and his wife Mary could not imagine life without each other. On June 23, 1992, in Napoleon, Indiana, Floyd began his day never thinking that this might be the last morning they'd share together.
That morning we got up and ate breakfast.
Have a good day.
I kissed her goodbye.
Now take it easy. Bye-bye, please.
That's pretty much a tradition.
Every weekday morning, Mary left for work early enough to drive the 16 miles into town by 8 a.m.
She's about 20 or 10, so I'll just give her a call.
Stacy, how you doing? Here's Meredith. I'm talking to you.
And they said, no, she ain't got here yet.
You kidding?
I just knew there was something bad that happened.
About 2 hours ago.
I just was thinking, you know, I gotta find her, I gotta find her. I was gonna backtrack the way she goes to work, trying to see if I could see something. I just knew if she had been right alongside the road where somebody seen her, I would have heard by now. As I was coming around the curve, I seen skid marks. I just knew it was her. I couldn't find her in the car. I thought, oh God, she got thrown out too. As I was hollering for her, I heard a little faint moan. I could see her laying down by the creek. Her eye was covered with blood, and her bone was sticking out of her arm. I could lose her right there. And that's when I said a prayer.
Breathe easy, it's gonna be okay. It's okay.
I heard a couple cars go by.
Hey, I'm down here!
They couldn't hear me. I didn't want to leave her there, but I had to get help.
Floyd drove to the nearest home to call for help. Rescue units with the Batesville Fire Department were immediately dispatched.
Ripley County, 69-3.
As soon as Ripley County Sheriff's Deputy Bill Davison got to the scene, he radioed for the extrication unit. The first medic to reach Mary was EMT Dan Sunder.
Man, can you hear me?
She was laying in a pool of blood that had obviously come from the head.
Can you tell me how you're feeling?
I thought there's no way she's alive. I needed every piece of equipment out of the back of that ambulance if I was going to do anything at all with this patient.
EMT James Randall was among those treating Mary.
She had a very, very weak pulse and a very, very weak blood pressure. She had what we call raccoon eyes, with signs of severe head trauma.
Okay, I got a backboard.
She was well beyond the golden hour, so we knew we were fighting time and fighting shock. And at this time, I really didn't know whether we could save her or not.
Volunteers with the local Napoleon Fire Department also responded, including firefighter first responder Larry Shaddy.
It's a fear in every EMT's mind. Next rep could be somebody you know or somebody you love, your mom, your sister, your brother, your son. It's always there.
Got any of your stuff back?
I looked over and I saw Floyd's car. I said, well, what's he doing here? Then I looked over the hill and I saw Mary's car. I said, oh my God, that's my sister Mary.
Hey guys,
I kept thinking this brain damage, or she's got spinal damage, or she's gonna be paralyzed the rest of her life.
Blood pressure's every few minutes.
okay.
And then I smacked myself around. I go, no, we can't do that. We're here to help.
Another one of the volunteers who arrived was Jason Engel, who rescue workers knew was the victim's son.
The scariest moment was realizing that it was my mother down in the bank.
She okay?
We don't know what the statistics are yet.
It was hard staying there. Sure hard.
Let's go, let's go. Stand, got it. Okay,
Are we in the mess? Let's get the straps down.
Our number one problem was with the blood pressure. It was dropping quick.
Okay.
My assessment was she won't be alive by the time we get her to the top of this hill.
You can protect her from the branches.
At the point that we found out that there was family there and on the fires, and it just raised the intensity.
Easy. If he stumps in the way here.
I got your foot there, Vinny, for a second.
There must have been 6 or 8 of us holding on to the stove basket as we went up this hill, trying to maneuver through the trees and get up this embankment that was very steep and very muddy.
By this time, more than 3 hours had passed since Mary's accident.
Just as we were getting to the top of the hill, air care was touching down. It was like an angel dropping down right there on the road in front of us.
The worst part was going to the hospital because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know she was still okay.
Mary Engel was flown to the University of Cincinnati Hospital, where she was examined by trauma surgeon Kenneth Davis.
She had a laceration on her forehead. Her pelvis was fractured, and she had what was obviously a broken arm. But the life-threatening part of her injuries was her stomach was in her chest as a result of her diaphragm being ruptured.
Okay.
Without getting any further tests, we went straight to the operating room.
No, give me a bed card.
Mary underwent 5 hours of surgery to try to repair her ruptured diaphragm, shattered elbow, and fractured pelvis. During the 16 days she was hospitalized, her family was never far from her side.
We went in there, and Mary's arms hanging up here in the sling, and she goes like this. I said, she waved goodbye, she waved goodbye.
1 year later, Mary is still undergoing treatment for some of her injuries.
They have operated on the elbow twice. They've operated on the shoulder twice. My arm won't bend straight out, but I can use my arm. And considering they was going to cut it off, I feel very, very lucky.
Hit it hard. There you go. Way to go. I'm proud of you.
I thank my mom is safe for her kind-heartedness.
You're welcome. I was glad to help you out.
She's always happy, she's always in a good mood.
I'll do the dishes.
She's always been there for me.
What?
The dishes.
How many times? I tried cleaning
I just can't think of her not being around.
I'm glad that we were there, and we're glad that you're still here with us, sis.
Thanks, brother. There's a lot of people that needs to get a lot of thanks for helping me out. But special thanks I need to go to God and Floyd. Because without them too, I just wouldn't be here.
Sweetheart. You just don't realize how close you are until something like this really happens. She's a determined person. She's strong-willed. She's always there, giving me support.
I know, but it's the truth.
She's a lady that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Sure.
Villains, robbers, bandits, crooks, they're all over your TV screen. But the biggest thieves are behind your screen. I'm talking about the cable companies. They charge monthly subscriptions, fees, rentals, and force you to take long-term contracts. Well, it's time to say goodbye to the cable guy, because now you can watch 4K Ultra HD broadcast TV for free. Introducing Clear TV Broadcast.
His mama would be sad.
A lesson learned is a Life saved.
All artists suffer for their art sometime in their career. Eric just happened to do it a little sooner than anyone had expected.
Step out of the car, please.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911. Treetop trauma.
He was about 3 or 4 stories high.
When a friend falls.
We learned the first aid merit badge. They said the worst thing you can do is panic.
Scouts honor their first aid training. Plus, a rookie wrestler wrenches his neck.
He assumed that he couldn't move. You've got to be very, very careful because any twisting, this person could actually die.
On Rescue 911.
As a child, summer is the best time, when fond memories and deep bonds are formed that will always have a place in our hearts. For 13-year-old Patrick Mizell and his close friends, August 28, 1993 is one summer day they will never forget. That afternoon, 13-year-old Maury Brazil and a friend were walking about a mile back in the woods behind his house.
That's kind of like my summer home. I'm back there a lot during the summer with my friends.
I don't hear.
I kept telling Jonathan that I was hearing voices. Then we heard some hammering. We figured somebody was building a fort.
Oh, it sounds like myself. Come on. Hey, myself!
Whoa.
Oh, wait! How'd you get that out? What's up, Dad?
We saw Patrick up in the tree,
Come on up.
and he was up about 3 or 4 stories high.
Man, this is awesome.
I was amazed because I've never built a fort that high.
14-year-old Ben Vogler and another friend were helping Patrick build the treehouse.
Me and Patrick are great friends.
What y'all get in here? We've been in
The
for
treehouse is going to be a place where we can go and spend the night and have fun.
Right, y'all bring anything out?
We were talking about how awesome it was and how cool it was going to be when we finished.
Oh, I'm gonna. Oh my God! Patrick!
When Patrick hit the ground, it was one of the most terrible sounds I've ever heard in my whole entire life.
When we continue.
He was laying on his side, he wasn't moving, and everybody was kind of running around screaming, what do we do? And he's dead.
He's not breathing.
Sorry, the bank took forever. You went into the bank? I got your birthday. Credit's not great. Work.
Ben and Patrick. He was laying on his side, he wasn't moving, and everybody just was kind of running around screaming, what do we do? Oh my gosh, you know, he's dead. Ben and Patrick and I are all in the same Boy Scout troop. And I remember when we learned the first aid merit badge, they said the worst thing you can do is panic because that's the way a lot of people die.
He's not breathing.
I knew not to move him because I could maybe paralyze him, but he wasn't breathing, so I had to put him on his back to lift his chin up to open his airway. But that didn't work, so I did a finger sweep. His tongue was in the back of his throat, and I pulled it out.
He's breathing, he's breathing.
His face was really pale. In Scouts, there was a rhyme that says,
Their face is pale, lift the tail. If the face is red, lift the head.
We gotta let the flag go.
Be careful, Martin. Maury said, lift his feet to make sure he doesn't go into shock.
Go get help, hurry up! Run!
I was really scared for him. I wasn't sure if he was gonna live or not.
Well, medic emergency, what is it?
Within 15 minutes of the accident, one of the boys got to a phone to call for help. A mobile medic ambulance was immediately dispatched to the scene.
Hang in there. Adrenaline was pumping through every vein in my body, and I really couldn't believe that this was happening.
Be okay, Patrick, hang in there.
He was breathing very raggedly, and I thought he was going to die.
Come on, Patrick.
Me and Patrick are great friends, and I can't imagine him not being here anymore.
Paramedic Derek Layton and the other rescue workers arrived at the nearest house within 25 minutes of the accident.
There was a lady waiting for us. She said, get on the four-wheeler, and he'll take you to where the patient was. The woods were about 100 yards back, so I figured that we were going to be right behind the house.
How much further?
But we got there, and the ambulance was probably a good mile away from where we were.
Hurt really bad, hurt.
I realized I didn't have my radio with me. I didn't think I'd be that far out of contact with my crew. Just by looking at him, I knew it was critical. Take this back to the ambulance crew. Tell them this is equipment that I need, okay? He's been like that the whole time?
Yes.
What happened to him? He fell from that tree. Hey, Patrick? Can you hear me? Patrick? I was surprised to see his blood pressure and his pulse as stabilized as they were. Everything that could have been done prior to our arrival was done.
Right over here.
But his pupils were gazed upward and to the right, which would indicate some type of head injury.
Okay. 13-year-old fell down the street about 40 feet.
It crossed the back of my mind that he might die while we were still out in the woods.
Put a sinkhole on him. I was ill.
Patrick's mother and father, Lori and Jim Mizell, were notified of his accident.
It seemed like I was running real fast, but I couldn't get there. It was like slow motion.
I could tell by the looks on the faces of the paramedics and the firemen that it was a very serious situation.
Are you okay? He's doing fine, okay?
You just looked like you were sleeping to me.
Are you okay?
I kept holding on to that hope that he was going to be okay. Just when you see your child sitting there and he's not moving. It's just going to frighten me.
Not a brush. You can be okay, sweetheart.
Since I lost my father about 4 years ago, Patrick's been my biggest buddy, and the thing that crossed my mind was that I was going to lose my best friend.
It's real scary to think that you might outlive your child. I just would rather die than hear die. He's such a joy. Such a sweet, good kid. God, I miss him.
Patrick was taken to the trauma unit of the University of Mississippi Medical Center in critical condition and treated by a team of doctors, including neurosurgeon Philip Azordigan.
Any purposeful movement just yet? When I first saw Patrick, he was comatose. And he had sustained a punctured lung, but he hadn't broken either his neck or his back. He's had a real bad injury to the head. The bad news was that he had sustained a very severe head injury. We need to operate on. We were very concerned that he would either remain in a coma permanently or would not survive at all.
You doing okay, Sugar?
How you doing, buddy? That's your daddy.
We just kind of sitting there comforting him, telling him where he was, telling him what happened, so that if he could hear us, he wouldn't be scared to death.
Go ahead and get well as soon as you
The
can.
main thing I was worried about was that his state of mind was gonna get bad and he was just gonna give up.
We got through that first night, and I kept telling him, this isn't good enough, Patrick. You gotta show me your eyes. I just wanted him to wake up. There you go, good. First time that I saw his eyes, it was, it's like when you're looking at them when they're a little baby, and they look up at you and smile.
Did you see anything?
It's just a bunch of prayers that were answered. It's just an answer to a prayer.
A 13-year-old Patrick Mizell spent 10 days in the hospital. In the 2 months since the accident, he has made an amazing recovery.
I think that Patrick was an incredibly lucky young man. I don't think anyone else who would have fallen that distance would have done nearly as well or even survived that fall. He's still a little bit slow in his speech, but he's back in school. He has been asking me if he could start lifting weights again. Now I have to be the meanie and tell him, no, you can't do this just yet. Slow down.
I'm looking forward to just being able to do my normal activities. I intend to be like real careful in a lot of the things that I do. I've learned that I'm not invincible.
He's been very adventurous. Jim and I have said that if he makes it through his teens alive, it'll be a miracle. We tease him now. We tell him that some angels caught him on the way down, which probably happened.
I'll do my best to do my duty to guide my country, to obey the scout laws.
The training they had learned in the Boy Scouts was the exact thing that he needed at that time. If it hadn't been for them opening his airway, he would have been dead before we got there. There's just no question that they're the ones that saved his life.
We have a victim here that's in shock. What do we do, guys?
This accident has pulled us together because we've realized how fortunate that we are that Patrick is here and that we all have such a good friendship.
See if he's breathing.
It really scared me to think that he was almost taken from us. I hope that nothing like this will ever happen again because it was really hard.
I don't think I can repay all the people that helped me. I want them to know that I'm very grateful for what they did.
Maybe I'll get to see him grow up more and see his kids. And when he has his own, he'll probably be able to feel the fullness of being a parent and the love that comes from it. He's my special son, and he always has been. I've done several things for me. That made me probably grand.
Next, I just couldn't believe what was going on. 1 second, he was dressing the rape. Next thing you know, he's injured and he's flat on his back.
These are unprecedented.
Needed to find something real fast. Optima hasn't. I mean,
I'm ready to help.
My house. I'm gonna have my car.
Number one tax resident.
On December 2nd, 1993, wrestlers, mostly from colleges across the Northeast, were competing in a tournament in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. After 20 years of coaching, Craig Spencer of Kane College learned that winning or losing is not the only measure of an athlete's character and strength.
The sport of wrestling is the oldest sport participated in throughout history. It is a violent sport, but it's a controlled violence. Mike Wicker was a freshman, And I felt that this tournament was probably a little bit over his head. He hadn't had a lot of matches. I felt he could hang in there and do very well.
Will Rance, a teammate of Michael's, was also competing in the tournament.
I met him when I first started wrestling, and ever since then we just became good friends. It was one of the best matches he wrestled all year. He was up 4-1. Mike was on the bottom, and before he can roll, the guy kicked his arm out. You could tell that there was something wrong because he had screamed that he couldn't move. He couldn't move. I just couldn't believe what was going on. I felt devastated.
When I got to Michael on the mat, and he was yelling out my neck, and you could see the bulge from the disc, and my gut feeling was this is very, very serious.
The tournament's certified athletic trainers were called to the floor, including Michael Aid.
Michael was lying face down, and I carefully palpated his neck, and I felt a bony protrusion. And I looked at my partner, and I guess I must have had that look on my face that had doom spelled on it. I said, Jim, get an ambulance. I said, this young man is in very serious trouble.
You got it into this unit. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
We decided we better log roll Michael.
Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
But you got to do everything in unison. And you've got to be very, very careful to do this because any twisting, this person could actually be permanently paralyzed or could die.
Get his hand, guys.
He tried to get up, and they told him to stay down. They specifically told him, do not move. And that scared him. I could tell that scared him a lot.
No, you're okay. You're right. Relax, Mike. Just relax. Take your breathing a little slower.
We had to physically hold him down because he kept on insisting that if I can just move, I will be okay.
Coach, I need to get up, Coach.
1 second, he was wrestling great. And the next thing you know, he's injured and he's laying flat on his back waiting for the paramedics to come. It's just incredible how you could just switch, just like that.
19-year-old Michael Wicker was taken to Wilkes-Barre General Hospital and put under the care of neurosurgeon David Sedor.
The test results showed that Michael had slipped the C4 bone over the C5 bone. He was probably within a millimeter of having permanent devastating damage to the spinal cord. The base of the canal for the spinal cord is very badly narrowed. We're going to have to reduce it. He would have damaged the spinal cord further and eventually gone into cardiopulmonary arrest if he'd gotten up and not listened to the advice of the trainer.
Michael was put in traction to try to realign the vertebrae in his neck without surgery. He was given a 50-50 chance of recovering. Michael's grandmother, Inez Wicker, who raised him and his younger sister Shamil since the death of their mother, came to see Michael as soon as she could.
When I first saw Michael, he was laying straight out like he was in a morgue. And I felt very drained out because, in intensive care, you think about death. And we sat down and talked for a while, and he burst out crying. Because I think deep down in his heart, he might have thought that he was going to die. The pain will go away. Because we want you to get well and come home.
He looked so weak. He couldn't move or nothing. He was just stuck in the bed. And I was really scared. Michael means everything to me. Because he's my only brother. And I love him a lot. And I don't think he knows.
After a second operation to fuse the damaged vertebrae in his neck, Michael spent 2 months undergoing extensive physical therapy.
This case is a clear example of how important it is not to move somebody with a critical spinal injury. And I just wish that all the cases could end this happily.
Okay, Michael, nice and slow. Legs up very slow.
If it wasn't for Michael Wade, if I would have got up even a millimeter, I probably wouldn't be here today. And I thank him very much for that.
Take it slow. I was just one piece in a very difficult puzzle. And Mike Wicker was a very major part of that puzzle because of his determination and his courage. This young man was literally on a deathbed. And I'm just tickled to death that it turned out this way for him.
Mike's doing good. He can do just about everything. He can lift, he can play basketball, he can't wrestle. But for Mike to come back the way he did, it took a lot of guts and courage, and a lot of heart.
Though Michael can no longer pursue his love of wrestling as a competitor, he's been made a student assistant for the team.
When Michael returned, he walked into the room, and several of the kids turned their heads, saw Michael walking in. The entire practice stopped, and they all stood up and started clapping. And Michael's eyes teared up, and all of our eyes teared up to see the wrestlers stand up and applaud like that. They would never do that for me coming into the room.
When I look at Michael, I see a miracle. I'm just so pleased that he's feeling better. And I'm forever asking him, is the neck hurting you? And he said, no, it's not bothering me. But it's just my way of, just feeling happy that he's there. I went through so much sadness when I lost his mother that I don't think I would have been able to go through any more sadness.
When I look at my sister, sometimes I just see my mother there. And the thought of me even losing her or she losing me, I couldn't bear that.
I know it does me compressed. I'm real happy because now we can do the same things we were doing before. I like going shopping with Michael because I don't have to pay for nothing. And I think me and my brother are very lucky.
They made it think, I won't be like Mike. So she said it's Michael.
They're the first ones called in after a chilling discovery, following a trail of clues to track down killers.
Our first priority was to identify the body.
New Detectives, coming up next on True Crime Network.
Step out of the car, please.
New Detectives, coming up next on True Crime Network.
Punishment. What was the demeanor of Sukhdev and Bachchan Atwal in court when they received those very...
The seizures and his whole body was convulsing.
Lands a woman in some cold water. This can't be happening. A stranger becomes her savior.
Karen, I'm here. Just hold still. We got help coming.
Plus,
started to go into seizures and his whole body was convulsing.
Parents look on in horror as their son is taken from the ice.
It gets real quiet in the arena.
On Rescue 911.
Every day we cross paths with hundreds of people who will never know. But in a crisis, one of them might suddenly become the most important person in our lives, as a woman in Morro Bay, California discovered on the morning of May 20th, 1993.
Around 6:45 that morning, 22-year-old Karen Clark was driving a deserted Park Road on her way home to her parents' house.
She had been having dreams, and she said, I've been having them a lot lately. She said, I keep dreaming I'm going to die by drowning.
Was just starting his daily 10-mile run along that same road.
It's like everything was in slow motion. And I looked and I thought, this can't be happening. I knew that I had to get to that car immediately. Gets in the water and somebody's in there. When we continued,
That's okay. I'm cold too. You'll be fine.
I was getting real tired. My arms were getting real tired. And I thought, if somebody doesn't come, I'm going through the hatchback.
Have you or a loved one been severely burned, or has a family member died as a result of a fire, contact with electrical power lines, an explosion, or defective product caused by another's negligence? You may be entitled to compensation. Each year, thousands of people suffer severe burn injuries or death caused by the negligence of others while at work, home, in auto accidents, or other activities. These painful burn injuries are difficult and costly to treat and typically require long-term or lifetime therapy and care. Dangerous products, electric and gas.
I'll move, pick up.
And today, and share ideas on what to do should they face one. All of this will help them be safe.
I went for the door handle and that was locked. The back window was all broken out and I thought, if I go in that way, I mean, we're all going to get cut up. The other window was open almost halfway. I didn't know who was in there, if they were dead or alive. And reaching around in there bothered me a little bit, you know, knowing that I might hit a dead body. I saw her hair floating around when I grabbed her leg and she jumped. It was a great rush of adrenaline. She was hung up in her seatbelt, and once I felt that go, I got my hand underneath her and I just pushed her straight up to the top where there was an air pocket.
I got you. You won't drown. I got you.
I didn't know how seriously she was hurt, that she was pretty delirious, and of course I could feel her really shaking.
Right here. Help! 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 Don't worry. Someone's gonna see us. What's your name?
Karen!
Okay.
Oh, it's freezing!
that water is 52 degrees, so it doesn't take long to get hypothermia.
That's okay, I'm cold too, you'll be fine.
I was getting real tired. My arms were getting real tired. And I thought, if somebody doesn't come, I'm going through the hatchback. I was thinking, maybe I'm down too far and they can't see me. But I kept telling Karen, I said, don't worry, help was on the way.
Okay, everything's gonna be all right.
More than 30 minutes had passed by the time someone stopped.
I was ecstatic. I felt, finally, this is going to end.
Ron Motter had been on his way to work.
I figured, okay, the guy got out and his wife or his maid or whoever, somebody else is trapped under there. I was praying to God that she had an affair. Because they say don't move somebody if you don't have to. Let the professional people do it.
He's breathing all right, right?
My stepbrother's paralyzed from somebody moving him from an accident with nobody there.
Within 5 minutes, this lady and her husband came along and everything just started to happen.
Rescue units from around the area were dispatched to the scene.
Station 1, we have a 911 call.
Karen's father, Clyde Clark, a maintenance mechanic with the Parks Department, was at home listening to his scanner.
Oh, is it great? Caller says it's a silver hatchback. It's upside down.
It was the same description as the daughter's car. And I knew Karen was due coming home about that time.
Karen, I'm here. Karen, I'm here. Just hold still, we got help coming.
Daddy, I'm cold.
Just hold still, we'll be in there in a minute to help you out.
I just kind of think about her laying there crying and being cold and trying to comfort her more than anything. It's something special.
Karen had been trapped in the car for nearly 45 minutes by the time Morro Bay fire units arrived, including Captain Mike Collins.
Single patient in the water. They got her head out of the water right now.
There wasn't a whole lot of damage to the vehicle, so we felt that if we could get inside and unlock the door, we could probably open it up. Firefighter Anderson had a spring-loaded center punch.
Lock the window here, okay?
Once that window was broken and we unlocked the door, with 3 of us pulling on the door, it came right open.
Got the door open.
Just a minute, Karen, I got you.
Karen, hold still now, just a second. We got the backboard coming down. We'll put you on it.
Okay.
When you're right next to death, it really makes you think a little bit. And it kind of made me realize, how precious life really is. Because there are no guarantees. It can be over in an instant.
1, 2, 3, slide her back.
Bob Fox and Ron Motter were right in leaving her in the car until we got there, and their soothing voices and reassurances played a large part in her well-being during the whole extrication process.
From extracting her out of the car and then walking up to the embankment, she wouldn't let go.
It takes a special person to be able to have that feeling and keep somebody going. Can't find enough words to compliment him.
At Sierra Vista Regional Medical Center, Karen was treated for hypothermia. Her parents joined her there.
I was petrified. It especially scared me knowing that Karen is deathly afraid of water. If Bob hadn't come by that day, I think Karen would not be here today. Her nightmares would have come true.
You're making me cry.
All right.
A year after the accident, Karen still remembers the day vividly.
Ron was holding my legs up so that they wouldn't smash against broken glass, and he ended up having to have 6 stitches put into his hand. The best part of the whole thing was knowing there's people out there that'll do anything for a stranger.
That's what it's all about. If somebody's in trouble, you help them out.
Without Bob being there to help me out, then I never would have been able to get married this year.
Bob and Ron, well, always hold a very special place in our hearts for what they did for Kevin.
I was happy that it all worked out. You know, my dad just taught me when I was a kid, you know, you treat everybody the way you want to be treated, and it'll come back around to you someday. Wow.
That whole event, I kept telling her, don't quit on me, don't quit. And she didn't. She didn't quit, I didn't quit. We won.
Yeah, I talked to
Next. You want to say it's going to be okay. Mom or Dad will take care of it. But Dad couldn't take care of this. There's nothing I could do. It was in the hands of God.
Watch how Luminous seems to blur away age spots to look years younger instantly. See how blemishes seem to fade away, leaving a flawless complexion? I look better than I have ever. You can't get this look with regular old-fashioned makeup. Women everywhere are seeing how Luminous Silk works to make you look years younger fast. So if you ever wanted to get Luminous, now is the time. Pretty impressive. Good job, Luminous. Today, for the first time ever, it's our half-off sale. You can get Luminous Silk in your own home at half the price, and it's yours to try completely 100% risk-free.
Then maybe
And primer with so many completely last drop for never tested on animals, and the cosmetics are made in it.
What is your Luminous Silk? Some of the footage in the story was taped as the events unfolded.
Ice hockey has the potential to be very, very dangerous. There's a lot of collisions, hitting ice, hitting the boards, hitting each other, and sometimes at a very high rate of speed.
everyone helping each other in tonight's work card.
One of the up-and-coming players on the Elmira College team was 21-year-old center Michael McNamara, number 18.
Michael is their only son, and he's just been such a big part of me. Because he's a son that will come up and put his arm around you and say, I love you, Mom.
Dolores and Mike McNamara had driven 100 miles to see their son Michael play that night.
There was nowhere to sit. It was packed. So we were way up high.
It was so crowded. I couldn't sit with the rest of my family. The air was just full of great anticipation of what a great contest it was going to be.
The coach of the Elmira team was Glenn Tamaris.
We got out early, put a lot of pressure on Plattsburgh. Scored a goal to go up 1-0.
John Oliphant was the Elmira athletic trainer.
And then gradually Plattsburgh picked up a couple goals on us. And then the score was 3-1.
Michael was coming out of the defensive zone. His teammate passed the puck to him.
It was a clean check, but it was one of the hardest hits I've ever seen.
He didn't even make any attempt to try to get up. And then all of a sudden it gets real quiet in the arena, like that people sense that something isn't right.
His eyes were open, but he was completely unconscious. It was a very blank stare. He started to go into seizures, and his whole body was convulsing.
The Plattsburgh medical team came onto the ice, including Director of Sports Medicine, Dr. Merritt Spear.
Within a very few moments, he was not breathing. I attempted a couple of breaths into his mouth. But within a very few seconds, we couldn't feel a pulse. That's when CPR was started in full.
I realized they were giving him CPR. And then I was just in a state of complete panic. I started thinking I've lost one of my children.
Peter Viola had been friends with Michael since their freshman year.
Most of the guys stayed on the bench. Everybody became very, very scared. More than one person was crying. I don't think anybody knew if we would ever see Michael again.
It seemed like an eternity when we were out there, but suddenly Mike's pulse came back.
I stopped doing the rescue breathing, put my head down, and could see that Michael was breathing again on his own. But because he didn't regain consciousness, I wasn't sure whether this was a real temporary thing.
Neurosurgeon Sohan Patel happened to be at the game that night.
The way he fell and bounced his head on the ice like a soccer ball, as a physician, I thought that we were really facing a life-threatening situation. And as a hockey parent, I could see that it could have been my boy, my son.
Just as I got there, he was coming through the gates of the ice rink. You want to hold him, and you want to say, it's going to be okay. Mom or Dad will take care of it. But Dad couldn't take care of this. There's nothing I could do. It was in the hands of God.
21-year-old Michael McNamara was taken to Champlain Valley Physicians Hospital, where Dr. Patel was on call.
In the emergency room, I did the full detailed neurological examination. He seems to be very restless and agitated. He's posturing. I told Michael's parents that I was going to treat him as if he was my own son and make sure that he has all the chances in the world to make full and total recovery.
His dad never seen it. Everyone kept saying, Michael, you're going to be okay. I love you, Michael. But there was no response at all. I'll never forget it.
And the CAT scan showed that Michael had sustained a fracture of the skull on the left side. The concern was, is he going to develop swelling of the brain? Is he going to develop recurrent seizures?
The days that followed Michael's accident were long and trying. His sisters were all there.
We would talk to him and touch his. I thought about the fact of him dying. It was scary. I care for my brother very much, and I look up to him. You would respect him.
After a couple of days, I started facing the reality that he may never wake up. And I just said, if Michael just turns all of this so that I can set him in a rowboat and sit him up and take him fishing, I'd be very happy. One thing that did encourage me was when I would go in there, Michael's heart rate would start to race. So I sort of said, well, jeepers, Michael knows I'm in here.
Very early on the morning of Michael's 5th day in a coma, his father went in to see him.
The minute I walked into the room and I said, good morning, his eyes just opened right up. You could open your eyes up for him?
We really all got excited, and it was like a celebration. It was so exciting.
Within 6 months, Michael had made a complete recovery.
I don't remember the hit at all, but hockey's a rough sport, so I have no blame. I think you just have to take it in stride, and you never can realize when things are going to happen like this, so you can't really blame anyone. I realized that I was fortunate that I didn't die right there on the ice, that I had no permanent brain damage. I thank everyone that made it possible today that I'm still here.
Michael worked very hard to get himself back in condition, and the first game of the next season, he was ready.
Well, I feel very fortunate. Doctors gave me permission to go back and play. But since I didn't remember any of the accident, I kind of went on playing the same way that I played before.
The first time I saw him, it was scary, but then again, it was that little bit of excitement that for you.
The following year, the Myers hockey team went to the Final Four. I'm proud of Michael and the way he's recovered. It's the kind of young man that he is that makes me proudest.
Knowing that Michael is well today, there's nothing that I want now. All my 5 kids are healthy, happy, have done well. I think anything from here on out that I get is extra.
Let's see, how many episodes of Rescue 911 did I put on today? I probably have 30, 40 on my DVR. Let's see, 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, Oh, I did trunk. No, I didn't do trunk trap top. I did trunk trap mechanic. Let's see. the one I already counted.
For as long as you live.
First thing you did was hug, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of crying on the shoulder.
Yeah. A lot of heavy breathing.
Crime happens every day. We're here to tell you about it. If you're a serious...
What? Do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, harboring disaster, an explosive afternoon cruise leaves a mother trapped.
In these sections, the fuel tanks could explode.
I was afraid that I'd never see my mom again.
Plus,
There's 2 types of motor officers. Those that have crashed and those that will crash.
rescuers fight to save their friend.
Emotionally, you can't think about whether you know him or not.
On Rescue 911.
We begin on June 21st, 1991 in California's San Diego Bay as Hans Kopfer, his wife Cheryl, and their 2 children were heading out to sea for the first time on a boat they had recently purchased. Their daughter Rhea was 7 years old.
I was excited, real excited. I didn't think anything bad was gonna happen. I just thought we were gonna have a party and have fun.
We were cruising. We were at about 5 knots. I felt that on the starboard engine was dragging a little bit, as some seaweed got caught in the rock. I disengaged the gears and had the engine idling and then sent Brian down on the swim set to rip it loose.
Careful, Brian.
You got it, Brian? Yeah, okay.
Brian and Rhea, they became back. Cheryl was still standing.
Alright. Hang on, let me go.
Cheryl went straight up in the air about 35 feet and then came straight back down again. Her legs were in the engine compartment. The right leg was stuck, the left one was good. And I couldn't pull her loose. All I could think is, let's make sure that the kids are safe.
I was so scared. There's fire all around her. I was afraid that I'd never see my mom again.
When we continue,
The fuel tanks were completely full and they're sitting right next to the fire. Any second they could explode.
Have you or a loved one been severely burned, or has a family member died as a result of found to be liable?
portable.
Go to Z.
Faster and for more money.
The fuel tanks were completely full and they're sitting right next to the fire. Any second they could explode. I sure started to scream, just get off, but I would not leave for them. Once I touched her lower leg, I knew that she has a major fracture and the leg wouldn't move.
It was cold, but at that point I couldn't feel anything. And I swam a little bit, but I was so scared that I just started to stop swimming and I just hung on to my brother's feet.
It seemed like forever, swimming in the water and just trying to get away from the boat. And finally, it seemed just like out of nowhere, a boat came up. It was a relief to find that someone finally picked us up, but then I kept on thinking about where's Cheryl, where's Hans. And the only thing we could see is the big flames and smoke all over. Then we could hear in the distance Cheryl screaming. It was pretty bad. We had this held me really hot tight, and there's really nothing we could do except for just listen to it.
I had a metal saw, and being a doctor, I was fully capable of cutting her leg off, had to do it. So I just decided one more choice I give it, then I cut. I ripped the fence off, but I couldn't get it over the leg. I had one more fire extinguisher available, but it didn't do absolutely nothing. The back was totally engulfed in flames. The only way for us to get out was through the window. It was way too to get off way fast. Any second, the fuel tanks could explode. Cheryl and I did not have a life vest on, and I'm not a very good swimmer. It was very cold, and I got cramps pretty bad. But I thought Cheryl several times to scream, just scream like murder. My main concern was if she would get unconscious, there's no way with my swimming ability to keep her afloat. After about 5 minutes, I was about ready to quit. And then I saw this big sailboat there. And once we got to the boat and realized the monstrous size of it, I knew there was absolutely no way to get onto this airport. So we were depending on some other source of rescue.
William Bowman, a gunner's mate in the Navy, and 2 petty officers had seen the explosion from a nearby base and went to help.
Once we realized that there were injured people in the water, we pulled alongside. Our first thought was to get them some help as quick as we could. We noticed the ship had burns. The only thing that we could do was keep them moist. I mean, all we had was salt water, and it was the only way of keeping her somewhat comfortable.
Harbor Police Patrol Officer Larry Lieber and his partner had picked up the children to take them to shore.
Both of the children wet. I went down below, got emergency blankets, wrapped them up in, and just started talking to them about anything I could think of. The little girl just wouldn't calm down at all. She just wanted to be with her parents, and she was starting to break my heart.
At the USS Dixon, a Navy medical team was awaiting Cheryl's arrival, including hospital corpsman Bernard Shaw.
She had burns more badly than we expected. The right lower leg was broken, and it needed to be splayed right away. The lower back was blistered. Some blisters had popped and exposed the tender area of the skin tissue. She was in deep pain. My heart was out to her.
Hans met up with the children at the dock.
When I saw the kids, it was an unbelievable relief because up until this point, we didn't know where they were or what happened to them.
That's when I started crying. It's just a big sign of relief, just to know that he was okay.
I felt much better that I had my brother and my dad, and I could see my mom.
While Hans stayed with the children, Cheryl was taken to a Coast Guard pier for transport to a nearby hospital.
She was very uncomfortable. I kept telling her, we're almost there. It's very important that you just hang on.
At the UCSD Medical Center, Cheryl was examined by Dr. John Hansborough, chief of the burn service.
How's the pulse down there, Jeff? The burns covered about half of her leg. They were entirely around the leg. They were very deep at what we call third degree. Third degree burns, particularly the leg, tend to get affected very quickly. But the biggest concern when Cheryl came in was really the fracture of the leg. This fracture is in an area which can tear the artery, which could result in actual loss of the leg.
And mom's gonna come in later.
When I saw my mom in the hospital, she looked like a sad little puppy. And she just said, Hi. I told my mom I love her.
Hi, Andrew.
Cheryl returned to work as a nurse manager at a local hospital after 4 operations to repair her crushed leg and a year of intense rehabilitation.
I admire her strength. I think it's very few people who would be as strong as she was through the whole thing. I'm very proud of her.
It was hard work and took a lot of support from other individuals. My husband, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
I think my dad's the hero for saving my mom's life. And the Navy guys, they mean a lot to her because they saved her.
On Call of Duty, I don't think there's any way possible to repay them. Just say thank you.
I'm just glad she's okay. That's the biggest thing for me. But this never would have happened unless there was a team effort. All the training, it paid off.
An investigation of the accident revealed that the explosion was caused by a gas leak in the engine, which had recently been overhauled.
I love my family dearly. I'm very thankful to be here just to spend what time we have here together. It's pretty overwhelming to know that my husband would risk his life. He'd be willing to go with me if that's what it took. I know Han loves me beyond belief.
Next,
there's no. Thanks for using lowcast.org, the nonprofit that makes local over-the-air broadcasts available to everyone. Just $5 each month covers the cost of delivering your local broadcast channels. Please help Lowcast by becoming a member today.
Story that there's 2 types of motor officers, those that have crashed and those that will crash.
Do you know what kinds of harmful things are floating in the air inside your home? Bissell does. That's why they created the Bissell Air 320 Max air purifier. According to the EPA, indoor air quality be 2 to 5 times worse than outdoors. That means in other lungs and harmful.
All the smoke is here.
The air in your some families to get free.
It's 1991. Close friends and fellow officers Derek Cecil and Jay Hawkins were nearing the end of their shift.
Derek and I, we have so many things in common. We joke with each other, we share the same brain. He was the best NAFTA rider I've seen in a long, long time. There's an old story that there's 2 types of motor officers. Those that have crashed and those that will crash. We had positioned ourselves in an area that we would have some concealment but still be able to see the intersection and see the violations. The kind of rule of thumb was whoever got their bike started first would get the violator. That adult had ran the red light at 6th Street, and I proceeded up to the truck.
Victor Albiniano was walking to his car when he saw the accident.
You all right? He hit the ground and the truck rolled up on one of his legs. It was scary. It didn't even click that it was a police officer until I actually got right there to him. God. There's blood coming out of his helmet and a little bit out of his mouth. Get some help or something.
I went for his neck and I started feeling the pulse in his neck. We got a pulse there, but we noticed he was having a hard time breathing. I decided not to take off the helmet because I was taught never to take pressure off a wound.
They advised that a motor officer had gone down. And at first, it was like, it's Derek. But then, you're like, no, it can't be Derek.
And we decided to get the truck off his leg. Instead of drive it off, just pick it up and move it to the side.
As soon as I got there and saw the scene, I remember running up to Derek and seeing him laying on his side, kind of on his back. Large amounts of blood were coming out of his helmet. You could see where the helmet had been impacted. I remember going up to him and saying, Derek, you're gonna be okay, you have to make it, you're gonna be okay. And turning away from him and realizing to myself that there was no way. You just don't have this kind of an accident and walk away from it. The only thing he wanted was to ride a motor. And he wasn't on motors probably 3 months when this happened.
Within 4 minutes, Regional Emergency Medical Services Authority arrived, led by paramedic Greg Billett, who knew Derek.
Emotionally, you can't think about whether you know him or not. He had a large laceration above his forehead, which probably struck the truck first. His injuries were definitely critical in nature.
Derek,
you got his neck in the
Derek's supervisor, Sergeant Greg Dion, went to the scene as soon as he heard the call.
I remember feeling this sickening in the pit of my stomach. All my life I've seen people run over by trains, killed in car accidents, and you become immune to that after a while. When it's one of your own, when it's somebody you're close to, I felt just a tremendous shock. I just remember watching the paramedics work on him and thinking he's going to die.
Head injuries are so unpredictable. If he did survive it, was he going to be the same person? Was it going to be my friend again? I turned to the sergeant who was on scene. I said, I'm escorting the ambulance. And I remember Sergeant Butterman, the one thing he said to me was, just be careful.
I did not see an improvement in the 15 minutes that I was with Derek. You like to see somebody at least come around and start talking to you, but he never did.
While Derek was transported to Washoe Medical Center, his girlfriend Melissa Shanks was notified of his accident.
I was very shaky when I got the call. I didn't know what happened to Derek at that point. When I walked into the room, I saw a person being bagged. It was like seeing someone that you didn't know. I was really scared.
At that point, when it started to hit, he probably wasn't going to make it.
One of the physicians who helped treat Derek was Dr. Hayden Hill.
The scale rating severe head injuries, 15 is the highest or best score you can have, 3 is the lowest you can have. When he came into the hospital, Derek was a 4, which is a very, very severe head injury.
I remember going home that night. I just sat with my son, who at the time was probably 2 years old, and I didn't really want to leave him. It's a slap in the face that, how quick and how precious life really is.
24-year-old Derek underwent surgery to relieve brain swelling and repair multiple skull fractures. But it took 8 days before he emerged from the coma.
He looked so pathetic. He was trying to talk to me, he couldn't. He was looking at me. I had tears running down my face. I thought, this guy's never going to come back to work. He's never going to be a cop. He's never even going to be the same again. He's not going to be Derek Cecil anymore.
Our goal was for him to be able to go home, to enter vocational rehabilitation, and ultimately obtain suitable employment. Nowhere in my thought process at that point did I believe he would be able to return to be a police officer. Fortunately, he made a liar out of me.
Miraculously, Less than 5 months after his near
For as long as you live.
First thing you did was that, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of crying on the shoulder.
Yeah. A lot of heavy breathing.
crime happens every day.
For more Rescue 911 videos, smash the like button and smash the bell notification, and you will be notified when I stream more Rescue 911 videos. And I will be doing a whole lot more Rescue 911 videos on Saturday and Sunday.